My name is Chidi Okonkwo, and if you had asked me 3 months ago about my life, I would have painted you a picture of absolute perfection. Not just success, but the kind of success that makes Lagos society stop and take notice. My family home sits on Victoria Island, a sprawling 1.2-acre estate that screams old money and new ambition. The white marble floors imported from Italy reflect the crystal chandeliers that hang like delicate jewels in every room. 6 bedrooms, a home theater, a private gym, and a swimming pool that overlooks the Lagos Lagoon. This was my kingdom. I built Okonkwo Global Solutions from nothing, transforming it into one of the most respected technology consulting firms in West Africa. At 38, I was everything a man could dream of being: successful, respected, feared, and admired. My wife, Adaise, was the perfect complement to my ambition. A former beauty queen turned philanthropist, she managed her own foundation focused on women's education. Her face graced magazine covers, her charity galas were the most prestigious events in Lagos' social calendar. Our 3 children were nothing short of extraordinary. Chidera, my eldest son, was a 15-year-old prodigy, already being courted by international boarding schools. Chizoba, my 12-year-old, was a tennis champion with scholarships waiting. And then there was Adana, our 8-year-old daughter, the apple of my eye, with her mother's grace and my determination. From the outside, we were the epitome of Nigerian success. Mercedes G-Wagons parked in our circular driveway, our children dressed in the finest international brands, our weekends spent between our Lagos mansion and our beach house in Lekki. I had everything, or so I thought. But perfection, I've learned, is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Behind the polished marble floors and designer clothes, a storm was brewing. A storm that would tear apart everything I had built, everything I believed in. It started innocently enough, a phone left open, a message glimpsed by accident. But those few moments would unravel the tapestry of my perfect life faster than I could have ever imagined. I remember the day clearly. It was a Sunday morning, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our master bedroom. Adaise had just returned from her morning yoga, dressed in a pristine white Chanel workout ensemble. I was reviewing some business reports, the smell of freshly brewed cappuccino from our professional-grade espresso machine filling the air. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing suggested the hurricane of betrayal that was about to hit our lives. If someone had told me then that my wife was plotting to destroy me, that the woman I trusted more than anyone would try to ruin everything we had built, I would have laughed. Me? Chidi Okonkwo? The man who had conquered the business world, who had built an empire from scratch?
But life, I've learned, has a way of humbling even the most successful men. And my humbling was just about to begin. The universe has a cruel way of revealing truth. In my case, it came through the most mundane of circumstances. A forgotten smartphone left carelessly on the kitchen island of our state-of-the-art kitchen. That Sunday, I had just finished my morning routine, a rigorous workout in my home gym, followed by a power breakfast prepared by our personal chef. Adaise was out for her weekly charity planning meeting. The children were at their weekend activities. The house was unusually quiet, save for the soft hum of the smart home system that controlled everything from temperature to lighting. I noticed her phone blinking. A message notification. Normally I would never invade her privacy. Trust had always been the cornerstone of our relationship. But something, call it intuition, call it a premonition, made me pause. The phone was unlocked. She had become careless lately, something unlike her perfectly orchestrated self. As I reached to move it, a message preview caught my eye. Not just any message, a conversation that would shatter my world. The sender was saved simply as T, a contact I recognized as Tunde, her ex-boyfriend, from before our marriage. I had known about him, of course. In Lagos high society, nothing remains a secret for long. But I had always trusted Adaise's commitment to our family. My fingers, usually steady during million-dollar negotiations, trembled as I scrolled through the messages. I can't stop thinking about you, one message read. Another, our plan is perfect. He'll never see it coming. Plan? What plan? As I continued, horror unfolded like a carefully plotted thriller. Tunde wasn't just an ex-lover, he was a predator orchestrating the destruction of my entire life. The messages revealed a calculated scheme to tear my family apart. Once you accuse him of molesting Adana, Tunde wrote, everything will change. You'll be free. We can be together. My daughter's name. My innocent child. The very mention made my blood run cold. Adaize's responses were even more chilling. Discussions about how to make the accusation believable, how to manipulate our family and community. She spoke about our marriage with a detachment that cut deeper than any physical wound. I never loved him, one message read. He was just a means to an end, a way to secure my lifestyle. I felt the world spinning. The perfect life I had built. The mansion, the successful business, the seemingly ideal family. It was all a carefully constructed lie. My wife was planning to destroy me, to use our daughter as a weapon in her twisted game of revenge and escape. My mind raced. Should I confront her immediately? Expose her? Or play along, gather more evidence? Years of business strategy kicked in. I would be methodical, patient. I would collect every single piece of evidence, ensure I had enough to expose her completely. The Chidi Okonkwo they knew, the ruthless businessman, the strategic thinker, was about to make his move. Little did Adaize know her perfect plan was about to unravel, and I would ensure it happened in a way that would become a legendary cautionary tale in Lagos society. The game had just begun. The next few weeks became in psychological warfare. I transformed from a successful businessman into a silent hunter, collecting evidence with the precision of a corporate strategist planning a hostile takeover. Tunde, the man behind this elaborate scheme, was no ordinary ex-lover. He was a failed businessman who had been nursing a grudge since Adaize left him years ago. I began to piece together his entire background. A man who had lost everything, now seeking revenge through my destruction. My private investigator, a former military intelligence officer I'd worked with on several sensitive corporate projects, began digging deeper. We discovered Tunde's history, multiple failed businesses, a string of broken relationships, and a reputation for manipulation that extended far beyond my personal circle. The messages continued. I watched, collected, and waited. You need to make it believable, Tunde would message Adaize. Create small incidents. Make people doubt him. I observed Adaize's behavior changing subtly. Her interactions with Adana became calculated. Small touches, carefully orchestrated moments that could later be misconstrued. She was building a narrative, piece by painful piece. Our home, once a sanctuary of luxury and love, now felt like a battlefield. The marble floors that once reflected our success now seemed to echo with silent betrayal. Our staff, loyal as they were, began to notice subtle changes. Adaize's conversations became hushed, her movements more calculated. I remembered our early days. How we met at a charity gala, how she seemed like the perfect partner. Now, every memory was tainted with doubt. Was everything a lie? Had our entire marriage been a carefully constructed facade? The children remained oblivious. Chidera with his boarding school preparations, Chizoba practicing tennis, and little Adana, the innocent pawn in this dangerous game. The thought of using a child as a weapon of revenge made my blood boil. I contacted my legal team discreetly. Top lawyers from the most prestigious firms in Lagos, people who had helped me navigate complex corporate battles. This would be my most challenging negotiation yet. Gather everything, I told my investigator. Every message, every piece of communication. We'll build an ironclad case. The manipulation was intricate. Tunde had clearly studied psychological warfare. He knew exactly how to push Adaize's buttons, how to make her believe leaving me was her only option. He planted seeds of doubt, created fictional scenarios, and slowly broke down her moral barriers. One particular message chilled me to the bone. If you want to be free, Tunde wrote, you need to create a situation so devastating that he can never recover. And then came the plan. The horrific, unthinkable plan to accuse me of molesting our own daughter. It happened on a Tuesday, a day that started like any other in our luxurious Lagos home. I was preparing for an important board meeting, dressed in a custom-made Ermenegildo Zegna suit. Adaize had been increasingly distant, her movements calculated, her interactions with Adana growing more theatrical. The accusation came suddenly, like a lightning strike. Local authorities arrived at our home, their presence disrupting the carefully curated atmosphere of our mansion. Adana, my sweet 8-year-old daughter, was pulled aside for questioning. Adaize's performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears, dramatic accusations, a carefully rehearsed narrative of abuse. I watched in silent horror as my world crumbled. The accusations were specific, designed to be both shocking and believable. Small details that seemed to corroborate her story. A missed school event here, a moment of private interaction there. Everything was calculated to destroy me. My legal team sprung into action, but the damage was immediate. In Lagos society, an accusation is often as good as a conviction. My business partners began distancing themselves. Okonkwo Global Solutions, the empire I had built, started to show cracks. Social media exploded. Before I could even respond, I was trending. Prominent Lagos businessman accused of child molestation. The headlines were merciless. I was arrested. The walk from my mansion to the police vehicle was a walk of shame. Cameras flashed, whispers grew. Years of reputation destroyed in moments. My mother, strong, traditional, wise, was the only one who stood firmly by my side. "They will see the truth," she said, her voice a mixture of pain and determination. In the cold police station, stripped of my designer suit, handcuffs cutting into my wrists, I realized this was just the beginning of a battle that would define the rest of my life. Little did they know, I had been preparing for this moment. Every message, every piece of communication was documented, and I was ready to fight back with everything I had. The game was far from over. The first week in detention was a test of everything I had ever believed about justice and survival. My luxury was stripped away. No custom suits, no private drivers, no sophisticated technology. Just concrete walls, metal bars, and the weight of a false accusation that threatened to destroy everything I had built. My legal team, led by barrister Amina Shehu, arguably the most formidable criminal defense lawyer in Lagos, worked tirelessly. She was a force of nature, a woman who had made her reputation dismantling impossible cases. Her office was a war room, with evidence boards covering entire walls, each piece of communication meticulously analyzed. "We're not just fighting a case," she told me during one of our strategy sessions. "We're fighting a carefully orchestrated character assassination." The evidence began to mount. Forensic experts examined the digital communications between Adayez and Tunde. My private investigator had compiled months of communication, revealing a plot so intricate it could have been a Hollywood thriller. My mother became my pillar of strength. She would arrive at the detention center dressed in her traditional attire, her presence a mixture of dignity and defiance. "They cannot break a man who knows his truth," she would say, her voice cutting through the despair. My children were protected from the media circus. My legal team ensured their privacy, understanding the potential psychological damage of such a public accusation. Chidera, my eldest, was pulled from his international school preparations. Chizoba's tennis tournaments were suspended. But Adana, my sweet, innocent daughter, remained blissfully unaware of the storm surrounding her. The forensic evidence began to tell a different story. The communications between Adeze and Tunde revealed a calculated plan. Timestamps, message sequences, the gradual manipulation, everything was documented with scientific precision. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A message Tunde had sent, thinking it was deleted, revealed the entire conspiracy. It was a moment of hubris, a digital confession that would become our most powerful weapon. "Once she makes the accusation," the message read, "we'll be free to be together. The business, the money, everything will be ours." Barrister Shehu presented this evidence like a master chess player making a checkmate move. The courtroom, previously hostile, began to shift. Experts testified about the digital communications, the psychological manipulation, the calculated nature of the false accusation. My reputation, which had seemed irreparably damaged, began to reconstruct itself. Colleagues who had initially distanced themselves now rallied. The business community in Lagos, known for its cutthroat nature, also understood the power of a carefully constructed lie. Social media, which had been my greatest enemy, now became an instrument of vindication. The narrative began to change. Prominent businessmen framed became the new headline. Boyfriend's downfall, Tunde's arrest was a spectacle that would be remembered in Lagos legal circles for years to come. My legal team, working in conjunction with corporate and criminal investigators, didn't just want to prove my innocence. They wanted to expose the entire conspiracy. His background was systematically dismantled. failed businesses, previous manipulation attempts, a pattern of destructive behavior. Everything came to light. The man who thought he could destroy my life was now facing multiple legal charges: conspiracy, attempted fraud, and psychological manipulation. During his interrogation, the facade crumbled. Tunde, who had presented himself as a sophisticated manipulator, broke down. His motivations were laid bare: a mixture of jealousy, financial desperation, and a pathological need for revenge. She promised me everything, he would later claim during his trial. But the evidence told a different story. The legal proceedings became a landmark case. It wasn't just about my personal vindication, but about exposing a systematic approach to character assassination in the digital age. My company, Okonkwo Global Solutions, emerged stronger. Many saw my handling of the crisis as a testament to my leadership. Board members who had initially wavered now praised my resilience. As the legal battles concluded, I realized this was more than a personal victory. It was a statement about truth, about the power of evidence, about surviving when the entire world seems aligned against you. The luxury of my previous life seemed different now. The marble floors of my home, the expensive art, the carefully curated lifestyle, they were no longer just symbols of success. They were testaments to survival. And my journey was far from over. Consequences. The aftermath of the legal victory was not the clean, triumphant resolution I had imagined. Vindication, I learned, is a complex emotion, a double-edged sword that cuts both ways, leaving wounds that time might heal but would never completely disappear. My health was the first casualty. The stress of the past months had taken a toll that no amount of money or legal success could immediately repair. Sleepless nights, constant anxiety, and the psychological warfare I had endured manifested in ways I had never anticipated. My once robust physique began to show signs of strain, unexpected weight loss, persistent headaches, and a vulnerability I had never known. The children bore the brunt of the emotional fallout. Chidera, my eldest, who had always been the epitome of academic focus and ambition, began to withdraw. His international school plans, once a source of family pride, now seemed like a distant dream. The whispers, the sideways glances, the subtle judgments, they affected him more deeply than he would ever admit. Chizoba's tennis career, once a beacon of family excellence, now hung in a precarious balance. Tournament invitations became scarce. Sponsors who had once eagerly supported her began to maintain a suspicious distance. The sporting world, like many social circles in Lagos, operated on a delicate ecosystem of reputation and perception. And Adana, my sweet, innocent Adana, was perhaps the most heart-wrenching casualty. Children possess an intuitive understanding far beyond what adults recognize. She sensed the tension, the unspoken trauma that lingered in our home. Her once vibrant personality became muted, her interactions more calculated, as if she were walking on fragile glass. Adaisy's role in this entire saga remained a complex wound. Despite the legal vindication, despite proving the elaborate conspiracy, the emotional betrayal cut deeper than any court judgment could heal. Our marriage, once a celebrated union of Lagos high society, now existed in a state of calculated coexistence. She remained in the house, a ghostly presence that moved through our marble corridors like a specter of our past life. Our interactions were minimal, purely functional, discussions about the children, about household management, devoid of any emotional intimacy. The woman I had loved, the partner I had built an empire with, had transformed into a stranger. The medical complications began subtly. First, it was Ades's increasingly erratic behavior. Sudden mood swings, unexplained absences, mysterious medical appointments that she was unusually secretive about. My investigative instincts, honed through years of business strategy, began to sense another layer of complexity brewing beneath the surface. It was during a routine family health checkup that the first real indication emerged. The doctor's face, usually professionally neutral, carried a weight of serious concern when discussing Adai's recent test results. Sexually transmitted infections, a diagnosis that carried far more than just medical implications in our carefully constructed social world. The revelation was like a secondary explosion in an already devastated landscape. Not only had she attempted to destroy our family through a fabricated abuse allegation, but she had also potentially exposed our entire family to significant health risks through her affair with Tunde. My mother, ever the pillar of strength, became our family's emotional anchor. Her traditional wisdom, combined with a modern understanding of psychological trauma, helped us navigate these treacherous waters. A family is not destroyed by one storm, she would say. Her voice a mixture of pain and hope. A family is defined by how it weathers that storm. The business world, which I had feared would abandon me, surprisingly rallied. Okonkwo Global Solutions not only survived but began to thrive in a way that surprised even me. The narrative of a wrongly accused businessman who fought back and won became a powerful brand story. Clients and partners saw not just a businessman, but a symbol of resilience. Yet, beneath the professional success, the personal cost continued to accumulate. Trust, that delicate emotional currency, had been irreparably damaged. Not just between Adesi and me, but within the entire family ecosystem we had so carefully constructed. Therapy became our lifeline, not just for the children, but for all of us. Individual sessions, family counseling, specialized trauma support. We invested in healing as strategically as I had once invested in business ventures. Each session was a journey of reconstruction, of understanding the deep psychological wounds inflicted by betrayal. The medical diagnosis for Adesi was complex. The sexually transmitted infection was more than just a physical condition. It was a metaphorical representation of the toxic choices she had made. Treatment would be long, complicated, and carry implications far beyond mere medical recovery. As the primary guardian and protector of my family, I found myself making decisions I never thought possible. Separation, but not divorce. Protection of the children's emotional and financial future, while maintaining a clear boundary of safety and respect. The marble floors of our home, once a symbol of our success, now seemed to echo with the complexity of our new reality. Each room held memories, each corridor a testament to a life that had been irrevocably changed. We were survivors, wounded, transformed, but unbroken. The journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning.